Hello, Algebra students. We are going to start Chapter 6. I'm on page 348 in your textbook, and these are the topics that Chapter 6 is going to address. The title of the chapter is Division in Algebra. So this will be the final chapter of kind of covering all of the groundwork we need to go on and start really applying some things, advancing in our algebra studies. Today we are going to look at the algebraic definition of division. I think that's a lot of review. It'll be very simple. We're going to look at rates and ratios. We'll look at those side by side because they're very similar, but one major difference. We have a little bit of probability, percent, some more probability, and then size changes, proportions, and similar figures, which I know you did a little bit with Mrs. Lee. So again, Chapter 6 will finalize covering that groundwork before we can start really getting into some deeper application of the algebra. Alright, so like we said, 6.1 is the algebraic definition of division. Alright, and we talked about this a lot. We always talk about with adding and subtracting, that adding is the same as subtraction in the form that if we add a negative, it's the same as subtraction. There's a similar relationship between multiplication and division. So I want to look at these ideas. Okay, we know that 6 divided by 2 is 3. We know that 6 divided by 3 is 2, and we know that 6 divided by 6 is 1. Okay, well then let's look at 6 times 1 over 2, 6 times 1 over 3, and 6 times 1 over 6. So this would be saying half of 6, a third of 6, a sixth of 6. Or you could think of it as, well, this is 6 over 1, and you could multiply your fractions, and that would give you 6 over 2, or 6 divided by 2. So as you can see, we would get the same answers. So the relationship between division and multiplication is that division is just multiplying by the reciprocal. And we know that is true for fractions, but actually it's true for all numbers. We just don't have to think about it, usually when we're talking about whole numbers. Okay? Let's just do a couple practice problems. X divided by 5 divided by 3/4. Okay, so we just said that division is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Since I'm dividing by this number, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of this number. In other words, this first number doesn't change. So I'm just going to change this into multiplication and reciprocate that second number. So then I have 4 times x and 5 times 3. Check to see if you can simplify that at all, and we can't, and that's all the further you can go. We can have things written as complex fractions. 7 pi over 3 divided by negative pi over 21. And you've heard me say this, don't give me a fraction in a fraction. It's not appropriate, it's not mathematically finished, okay? But what this is really just saying is this number divided by this number. And we know that we can just reciprocate the second number and multiply. multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, I see this, and I don't know what 7 times 21 is in my head. I guess I could do it, but what I see here is I could go ahead and simplify. Remember that you can simplify any numerator with any denominator. So I'm going to make this a 1 and this a 7. Likewise, I notice that a pi divided by pi would just be 1. Okay, I don't want to lose this negative though. That negative needs to stay in there. So I get 7 times 7, 1 times negative 1, which we can write nice and neatly as negative 49. Kind of going along with this problem, and I could just move that negative kind of wherever I wanted. Something to pay attention to. Negative a divided by b is the exact same thing as a divided by negative b, which is the exact same thing as a negative a divided by b. Okay, so just notice it doesn't matter where that negative is. They are all the same thing. We could use this whole concept of division to solve an algebra problem, which I know this is stuff we've probably already actually done. So there's two ways you could solve this problem. Probably 99% of you are going to go ahead and divide by negative 31. The other option is we know that we can multiply by the reciprocal, so I could multiply by negative 1 over 31. Go ahead, calculate that. And you should end up with, whichever way you did this, m is equal to negative 17. Okay, so I think most of this is probably review, but it's just good to talk about why they are the same thing. I'm guessing most of you, if it's not having to do with a fraction, you're probably just going to divide. But if we're using fractions at all, you have to remember to multiply by the reciprocal. Okay? And that's it for 6-1.